Are you done? Are you just going to keep?
Hello, beautiful humans. Welcome to my lunch recap on day 1 of the Brandon Boudreaux trial. It is Thursday, June 5th, and court is in recess for just 1 hour during lunchtime. So for those of you who do not want to listen to Lori in the courtroom, I listened to her so you didn't have to. I will give a full recap of everything that happened at trial this morning, including all of the moments when the jury was not present. This has been a wild start, but a smooth one. No shenanigans from Lori as far as we can tell. First of all, I need to let you know that I am going to be streaming the entirety of the trial proceedings here on my channel. I've already streamed this morning's proceedings. This afternoon, I will stream at a new link, and I'll get that link for you before we leave chat here today. This is going to be a thorough recap, but a quick one so that I also can grab a snack before we go back to trial proceedings for this afternoon. I was able to take very detailed notes. The only difference between this and the last time that I was there in court in person is that, of course, I'm also watching my chat and trying to answer questions as we go along. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you, especially if you are new to the channel. I'm Lori Vallow Daybell's first cousin, Megan Connor. Lori and I were close growing up, and I was close with the Cox family for quite a long time. So I have a lot of insights into how they operate and how Lori got the way that she is. My favorite thing to do is to teach people about the manipulation and control tactics of people like Lori and teach them how to defend against those tactics. I do one-on-one coaching, and I also have an e-course, and those are both available at my website at third-verse.com. So let's get into the recap here. I will address what happened at the very end. McSpunky, good to see you. Please do not drink and drive unless you're just drinking water. Lori has always used a little girl voice when she wants to get what she wants. She's used that voice a lot to sort of soften when she's telling you something she thinks that you don't want to hear, or when she's trying to get you on her side. She has used that a lot. So first of all, we started off this morning with a bit of a surprise. One jury member wrote to the judge and asked to be excused. He was an older man, a veteran, and thanks to all of you who are becoming new members. This is really great to see so many new members here. And fabulous Bad Bitch Hawkins, thank you so much for the super sticker there. So this older man who was a veteran said that he wrote to the judge and said that after he left trial yesterday, he broke out in a cold sweat. He had a really hard time sleeping, and he just knew that he wasn't going to be able to continue on this case. My heart went out to him. Really, I feel terrible for him that he had to endure that difficult circumstance. I have had panic attacks that are similar to that, and I know how difficult that is. I'm really glad that they allowed him to be excused from his jury service. So they brought one of the alternates then is going to be there. Now, from what I understand, all of the jurors plus the 4 alternates, now 3 alternates, are there observing trial. They won't know until the end of trial who actually gets to deliberate. And my heart goes out to the jurors. They have no idea what they're in for here. And even though there are no deaths in this case, I think it's just as traumatic to have to listen to the stories of someone trying to kill a family member. And yes, I said this as well, Alison Pruitt, having to be in the presence of evil, as I believe that Lori is, that's my opinion, it's not a good experience. So that's what we started off with this morning. And then first of all, I have a joke for you. One of my clients that I was doing a little check-in with this morning told me this joke. Why did the narcissist cross the road? Because there was a boundary in the middle of it. I just had to laugh at that. So there's your humor for the day. So a very dramatic opening from Trina Kay. She set the stage for us. The Jeep sitting near the driveway. all of this set the stage. And then Brandon pulls up to his driveway. He sees the Jeep, the window opens, a gun comes out, and bang. And she did a loud bang. And all of us sort of jumped a little bit. I was like, wow, I'm wide awake now. She started it off just in the best possible way. It was a very dramatic opening. I'm sure it had a huge impact on the jurors. Trina talked about how we were going to hear about a divorce between Brandon Boudreaux and his then wife, Melanie Pulowski, and that Lori conspired to get Melanie to divorce Brandon. Then she talks about spending $200 on a dark tint for that Jeep. And then she says, and I love the way that she lined this out for us. She said, loaning the Jeep to Alex was Lori's first act in the conspiracy. It was her first mistake, tying her to the conspiracy and the premeditation of all of these acts. Then she talked about the burner phone being purchased by Alex Cox with cash. He talked about that burner phone. She talked about him having a burner phone in addition to his regular phone, and that's going to become important. She says that on that burner phone, Alex Cox searched Brandon Boudreaux's address with his Google account on the morning of the shooting. Now, somebody brought this up in chat, and if anybody has any, documentation, proof, anything in the FOIA documents about this, I would love to know. They alleged that Lori and Chad's cult group were canvassing the neighborhood to find out where Brandon Boudreaux lived. They were knocking on doors saying, hey, I'm looking for a friend of mine that just recently moved in, but I don't know his address. If anybody has proof of that, I would love to see it, because that's a new thing that I haven't heard of. So I would really love to know if that's true. Then Trina K says, Lori Vallow's second mistake. And it's interesting, she's referring to her as Lori Vallow throughout this opening statement. So that it's interesting, because I think she doesn't want to confuse them with the Daybell thing. So Trina K says her second mistake, tying her to the co-conspirator and the premeditation, was removing and storing the back seat and the tire of that Jeep in her storage unit that she rented just the day before the shooting took place. Then she said the third mistake was that she provided a fake alibi for Alex Cox. She had Alex's cell phone in her possession in Idaho, and then she called, allegedly, from Alex's cell phone to her cell phone, and that call lasted 24 minutes. Those two cell phones were in the same location. They were using the same cell tower. And I think it's really interesting that Lori did not realize location services, are going to pick up those phones being in the same exact location. From the same apartment, exactly, Brandon Kuhn. She called Alex's phone. Alex's phone called her phone from inside the same apartment. Just silliness. Very interesting. Then Trina said we're going to learn about LPRs, which are license plate readers. Then she brings the literal receipts. Alex Cox stopping at the El Favorito restaurant on Power Road, and also that he Googled the Power Road address. Then she talks about the storage unit. Lori rented unit C52 on October 1st. And then we saw that the burner phone was in Arizona. Melanie Pulowski knew that Brandon Boudreaux had the kids because she actually gave Brandon the kids early. And we're going to find out later why all of that happened. They went to the park to exchange the kids. And then we see the location of Alex's phone at Melanie Pulowski's house. Melanie knew that she was going to exchange the kids with Brandon. They met at the park to exchange, and then the burner phone moves from Melanie's house to Brandon's house. Very interesting. Then Lori and Alex, I think, I don't remember if Trina. I think I just got sucked into a portal. I'm so sorry, you guys. I swiped something off of my computer, and I think it swiped the mouse pad, and I got I got out. So I hope that didn't interrupt everything too much. I hope you guys are still here. It looks like you are. Thanks for being here. So where were we? I don't remember if Trina K specifically mentioned Alex being with Lori, but then Lori replaced the tire and the back seat to that Jeep. And I just want to point out, lots of people are like, who was driving the Jeep? I don't think anybody was with Alex at this point because Melanie had her youngest child. So she would have had to have her child with her if she was driving the Jeep. So I think it was just Alex alone. I could be proven wrong about that as we continue in this trial. But as far as I know, it was Alex alone in the Jeep. Now, Trina K was very concise with her opening statement, but she was also very detailed. She did go into some of these details, and I think she laid out the story beautifully. And we are going to talk about this. Amora Valesi, Lori brought up the kids in her opening. It's so creepy how she has to assert some kind of relationship with other people's children. Yeah, well, I have thoughts about that, and we'll talk about it in just a second. I guess Zulema could have been there. She could have been the driver, but I haven't seen any evidence of that, and I don't know. But I think we'll find out. Yeah. Then Lori gets up for her statement, for her opening statement. She is wearing that blue jacket that we've seen before. It has a little bit of a ruffle to the back of it, and I think she likes that jacket because it conceals the fact that she's got the rack belt on underneath. She's wearing a white button-down shirt with some kind of a dark undershirt, and I've long been confused about this choice for Lori. Her email address is Lori for Style, but that doesn't seem to be a very stylish choice. I know she's got a limited amount of wardrobe that she can pick from, but she has other things she can wear that are a lot more attractive. I just don't understand the white button down, because what she does is she has the last two buttons of it undone and she has it tied in a knot. What the heck? It just looks weird. It looks very weird to me. Anyway, enough about Lori's appearance. Well, I lied. Her hair is curled. She took the time to curl her hair today, and it does look as though she has gotten a hold of some kind of bleaching products in prison or in jail, because her hair is looking a lot lighter. Somebody commented in chat earlier that she took her sick days to take care of her hair. She starts out her opening statement, "Here we are at trial," which I thought was just a bizarre way to start out her opening statement. I mean, Trina K knocked it out of the park. She came in with that bam right off the bat, and Lori's was like, "Here we are." Just, yes, and she's definitely using her keep sweet baby voice, trying to win over the jury with her charm and her sweetness. Then she starts to explain how the judicial system works. And right away, Trina K objects to Lori making an argument versus a statement. And Judge Boreski reminds Lori, this is supposed to be a preview of what is to come. It is not supposed to be an argument. She starts again to describe the role of the judge and the court and everything. And Trina K objects, this is an improper argument. She moves to strike it. And then, it was because Lori started to say that the way charges are brought is that there's a grand jury. And then she's trying to explain how the charges were brought. And Judge Boreski says how the charges were brought and prior proceedings are not for the jury's consideration, and they shouldn't be brought up here. So then Lori says that the prosecution is going to come up with a theory. They weren't there. that she's going to keep on this same, she's a one-track mind. She's a broken record. She's going to do some of the same things here that she's done in her previous trial. So in other words, she has not learned a GD thing from this last trial because she tries to use some of the same arguments. She says the prosecutors were not present. It's their job to fill in the gaps of what they don't know. So they literally are going to make up a theory and then present this story to you, but they weren't there. Then she starts to talk about instances of conspiracy in the Bible. She brings up Judas having a conspiracy against Jesus. And then Trina K objects, how is this appropriate? And there's a big, long pause, and Lori turns to the judge and says, what is the legal objection? And then Judge Boreski says, this is an opening statement. This is not an argument. Basically, Trina K was saying, it's not appropriate because she's making an argument here. Lori asks to approach the bench. And so they have a brief sidebar. Now, Lori is allowed to approach the bench, apparently, because she goes up there and no shock. She did not get shocked in that case. But she started to say, she had already brought up Judas, and then she said Cain conspired against Abel. And my thought was, Lori, comparing yourself to Judas and Cain is probably not the best move for your reputation right now. It's probably not a good idea. So they approach the bench, and Lori does not go back to that biblical argument that she was trying to make. Instead, she talks about her relationship with Melanie Pulowski. She talks about how they were like mother and daughter. And then as she goes on, instead of using, like she did before, the evidence will show, she goes, you will learn. She starts this narrative of you will learn. You'll learn that Brandon Boudreaux hired, so basically she talks about some of the events that allegedly happened, but she said that the police did an investigation and that wasn't good enough for Brandon Boudreaux. He wanted to blame this all on me, and so he hired his own private investigator to follow his wife. You will learn that Brandon Boudreaux had access to a VIN number. And so the narrative that she's trying to put out here is that this is all a big story that's been concocted by Brandon, that Brandon basically told the police all of this incorrect information. She said that Brandon's initial comment was that the Jeep color was a puke green color. And then she says that from the time that Brandon Boudreaux first told the police, he changed it from camouflage green to gray. So she's confusing the jury as well, because now she's said 3 different things over here. She says, you will learn that Melanie Pulowski was named as a co-conspirator in this case. I did not know that. That was a new fact for me, if that's true, if you can even believe Lori. But Melanie Pulowski has not been charged with a crime. Alex Cox has not been charged with a crime. That's because he is not alive. And she literally just mentioned that. Actually doesn't mention it until a minute, but Trina K has an objection to this and moves to strike it from the record. And Judge Boreski sustains that objection. Then she talks about Alex. She says that he tragically passed away and he's not here to defend himself. And then Trina K objects again, because Alex Cox is not a party to this case. Judge Boreski then reminds the jury that an opening statement is not evidence. An opening statement is simply that, a statement. Then Lori says that the state has the 100% burden of proving that, the state has the burden of proving 100% that she was involved in this conspiracy, alleged conspiracy. And there's another objection to that. And it's sustained. Lori reiterates again, I'm the only one who's been charged with a crime. And then she goes on this narrative, did this shooting even occur? Brandon Boudreaux owned a gun. Brandon Boudreaux knew how to shoot that gun. Brandon Boudreaux blamed me for his divorce. And then he told the jury that it's their job to look at Brandon Boudreaux and look at the police department and their investigation and the evidence that they're going to put out, and say, I'm the only one who was there and I'm the only one who was charged. Just crazy. Definitely victim blaming there. Then there's an objection and a move to strike, and that's sustained. And then the jury, Judge Boreski reminds the jury that we're not in the penalty phase yet, and that their job is to notice whether or not the state proves the charges beyond a reasonable doubt. So he reminds that. Then Lori says, and who is the state? She starts to go into this. She did this in her last opening statement. She was like, the prosecutor's the state, the court is the state, the police are the state, and they're all against me, and it's your job to protect me. Trina Kay says, objects to that as to the relevance. When Lori says, who is the state? She objects to relevance. Then Lori says, it's your job to stand between the state and me. And she started to say that, protecting me from the state. And Trina Kay again objects as to relevance, and it's sustained. Lori says it's up to the jury to decide whether a crime even occurred. And then she defines the word speculation for the jury. A speculation is an idea or a guess. And the state is basically just going to speculate about this story. And she said, what you're going to see is a power struggle between the state and me. And there's an objection that this is an argumentative statement. Lori then says, you're going to see a struggle between us about what a fact is. So apparently, Lori has a different opinion of what a fact is. And I guess we've seen a lot of evidence of that. Zara says her giggling and laughing during her opening statement would be very concerning to me if I was sitting on that jury. And in my recap tonight, I am going to play a couple of clips from her opening statement because I think it's important for people to see what's going on with this. But if you don't want to listen, I understand. I will have her voice muted and we'll just see the closed captioning for that. So I don't know if Lori wants Melanie Pulowski to be charged. I kind of doubt it because of their past relationship, but it certainly seems like she is throwing Melanie under the bus here, definitely. This opening statement is definitely worse than her last. I agree with you for sure. Hawkeye, it's good to see you. Thanks for being a new member here. So what is a fact? Lori says, the state is going to try to convince you that a fact is an innuendo and a fact is a speculation. Now, she definitely got this completely wrong because what she should have said is the state is going to try to convince you that their innuendo and their speculation is fact. But she completely got it backwards and she said it totally the wrong way around. Sorry, Joe Schmo is texting me. He has boots on the ground there, and I just want to make sure that there's nothing crazy going on because he said he would let me know. I'm just going to take care of your mental health, exclamation mark. Breathe, exclamation mark. And I almost said that as I started out this live today because I realized as we were about to go to lunch break that I was very tense, that my jaw was clenched. I just had to, okay, just breathe. So Lori says that the state is going to try to convince you that a fact is an innuendo and a fact is speculation. But the state doesn't know what I was thinking or what I was planning. They don't know at all. And she says, I would implore you to look at the evidence, to look, what was my motivation? Where was the malice? Where was the benefit to me? And then this is where I lost it, you guys, because she said, I am a person who loves all people. I am just here to spread love. The prosecution is going to try to wrongfully convict me. And Trina Kay had another objection to that. And she basically ended her opening statement by saying that she just is a loving person. She is all about spreading love, and she just wants everybody to be happy and loving, all of this, what do you call that? Hippie, kumbaya stuff. And it made me so angry that I had to stop taking notes. I just had to stop. I just had to stop and breathe. I was infuriated when she was finished with that, because it makes me so angry when she disrespects her victims by trying to portray herself as this loving person. She obviously is not. She obviously does not love all people. She obviously does not try to spread love. She said, I just want to spread love, and that's what I'm going to continue to do. What you're doing, Lori, is not spreading love. And you're not going to get to continue to do any of it, because you're going to jail and we're never going to see you again. And I cannot wait until that day. Joe Schmo says Judge B wants to shave as much time as he can, apparently. He released the jury right at noon to be back at 1, and I was expecting the usual 1:30. So yeah, I knew we were only going to be on an hour today. So this is going to be quick for me too, you guys, to try and wrap this up quickly, because court is already back in session right now, as far as I know, and the live stream feed will start up here again in 30 minutes. I'm just going to, Nate Eaton reported that Trina has about 30 more minutes of questioning after lunch, and she will play the 911 call. And then at the end of the hearing, the end of proceedings this morning, there was some questioning from Judge Boreski to Lori about whether or not she had gotten in touch with her investigator. Apparently, there are some documents that she needs to receive in order to cross-examine Brandon, and they were waiting to hear from the investigator. Lori made some kind of an excuse saying, I can't really communicate with him myself, so I'm going to have them check into it and we'll get to you as soon as possible. Like, basically trying to say it's not my responsibility. I'm just, I'm going to do the best I can, but I can't make any promises, which is very weird to me, the way that she does that. She's pushing off the responsibility. I mean, it's not new, but it's just one of those things that I dislike, So the way that they ended that at the end, at the break there, was that Lori was saying that she was hoping over the break that they would get the documents from her investigator that they needed, and that she would let them know. So Carrie Wilson, I agree with you. She is not prepared for trial today. She basically took those days as a day off. She did not do anything to get ready for court. And these delays are, I think, another way for her to try and control the situation, as she always has to be in control. And if she, what would happen if she's not able to cross Brandon? Well, she's going to have to cross-examine Brandon. This is her only opportunity to do it. She cannot call him back as a witness. So if she doesn't get whatever documents she needs, she's just going to have to proceed with cross without them, because this is her only chance to do this. That's right. She has to figure it out on her own. She took the job of being her attorney, and that's it. Yeah, so I don't remember this. The last thing the judge said yesterday was be prepared, and she's not prepared. So yeah, they hadn't heard back from the investigator yet. So we'll see. I think we'll find out more when court comes back in session. Before the jury comes in, they will have a conversation about this, and we'll figure it out. So the first person called to the stand was Brandon Boudreaux. He gave an excellent testimony. For those of you who are not watching trial, I will have a full recap of the entire testimony on my recap at the end of the court day. I'll go just into a couple of little things here that stood out to me that I think are important. I didn't know this, but in June 25th of 2019 is when Brandon and Melanie had this big, long conversation where apparently that was the beginning of the end of their marriage. Brandon's grandfather had passed a few days earlier, and Melanie did not want to go to the funeral. She started using confusing language. Some of the Lori Daybell in speak of the cult language. Melanie accused Brandon of hacking Lori's computer, and he said none of this connected for me, because it was just so odd. It was such a weird accusation for her to make, that he said, I just couldn't make the connection of this. I couldn't figure it out. And the thing that really stood out to me is that after all of these accusations and this weirdness that Melanie brought up, he was thinking, that he didn't want to get divorced. He knew that would affect his kids forever. And he knew that some of these accusations were coming from Lori because Charles had told Brandon that Lori was trying to convince Melanie that Brandon was gay. I hope you followed all of that. If you didn't, rewind. But Brandon and Charles were in touch with each other. They were friends. They were close. And here's the thing that really stood out to me. When this happened, Melanie made all these accusations. Brandon immediately reached out to Lori and to Charles. Excuse me. He went straight to the source of the incorrect information. This is something that my family historically has been terrible about. People in my family will talk to everyone except the person involved. You have a problem with me, they will go to talk to everyone else about me instead of coming directly to me. So I love that Brandon went directly to the source. Throughout his testimony, I just have to say, he is such a kind and loving and sincere person. He is, to me, in my mind, he's a hero. He was the one who went and identified JJ's remains officially so that Kay and Larry didn't have to. That act of love just made me, just fixed him forever in my mind as a hero and a wonderful, beautiful human being. He did mention that he is still a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which surprised me, frankly. But you could tell throughout his testimony that his faith is sincere and that he honestly has a true belief in Jesus Christ. And he mentioned throughout this that there was one thing that he said, I have a goal of trying to be like my Savior. And I just thought that was really beautiful. He's just a wonderful person. He came across as so sincere and kind and loving. My heart goes out to him and his kids. I feel so terribly for what they've had to be through. In 2019, his kids were 9, 5, 4, and 2. They had this beautiful family. And then Lori came in and poisoned it. Charles called her a destroyer of families. And I absolutely believe that is exactly what was going on. So this whole conversation happened in June of 2019. And then in September of 2019, that's when things really heated up. Brandon noted that after he confronted Lori via text about these lies that she was telling Melanie, Lori never responded. And then she would never be alone with Brandon after that. There were always people around. She made sure of that, and she didn't respond to any of those texts. So then they go into the divorce. They did a mediated settlement agreement. The divorce began notably early in July, just a few days before Charles was killed. They go into the custody exchange, and they go into the fact that only 5 people knew Brandon's address, 2 of his friends and a couple of his neighbors and Melanie. But his friends and neighbors did not know Lori, and they did not know Melanie. The only person that knew Lori and Brandon and had his address was Melanie. So it was a little, and Tom Evans noted this in the chat, that it was a little bit like Melanie was on trial here, for her actions in this. Then they talked a lot about the workings of the Tesla. I think Alex did not realize that the Tesla door was going to open the way that it did. And on my recap this evening, I'll have a picture of the Tesla, a picture of the bullet hole, and I'll show you exactly how all of that works. Here was the part that was kind of threw a wrench into everybody's plans. Alex's cell phone, I already said in opening statements, went from Melanie's house to Brandon's house. And they exchanged children, and then Alex expected Brandon to then come home, but he didn't. He went to the gym, and that was an unexpected change. And so Alex sat in front of his house that whole time because he did not expect Brandon to go to the gym. And then Anja is asking, Megan, are their children, oops, wrong one. Are their children still with Melanie? As far as I know, they still have shared custody of the children. And I misspoke before. I said I maybe thought that it was 50-50, but I think that they have standard possession, which is that Brandon gets the kids on weekends, maybe even on Thursday nights, and then for part of the summer as well. MB, did she file again? I think so. I think I heard somebody else say that she filed something, but I looked this morning and I didn't see anything new on the docket. I'm going to ask Joe Schmo real quick. Do you know of a new filing, question mark? Okay, sorry, thanks for that. Thanks for letting me try to conduct business and lots of other things. Okay, so there's a new, oh my gosh, Lori filed a motion to change the judge over lunch. Well, she's going to keep doing it. She's going to keep throwing ish at the fan, and it's going to keep spreading everywhere. Maybe Brandon has primary and Melanie has weekends. I don't know. I think we'll probably find out. I think this is one of the reasons she wanted to meet with her team over the lunch hour, is so that she could file stuff. And I'm sure that she is trying to delay again. So again, I'm going to have a full recap of this testimony on my afternoon recap. I believe that court is coming back in session here pretty quickly, and I need to get that live set up. Brandon noted that his window shattered, but there was no hole, and he was feeling very overwhelmed by, of course, this loud bang, the window shatters, he's kind of freaking out. And at this point, he knows, at least in the back of his mind, if he's not thinking of it presently in the moment, he knows that Charles Vallow has been killed at this point. This is October 2nd of 2019. Charles was killed in July. And at this point, Lori has left for Idaho and nobody knows where she is. Lori, Alex, and her 2 kids are in Idaho, and she hasn't communicated with any of her family. Although obviously Melanie knows where she is, because guess where Melanie was on September 26th through 29th? The reason she gave Brandon the kids early is because she flew to Idaho that weekend. On September 25th, that was the same day that Alex was getting the tint done on the Jeep. So while you guys are right here, I'm going to check and see if I can get the minute entry pulled up again. I'm just refreshing here. Nope, the last one I see on there is the last one that we read together. So I don't have any new documents to share with you, but I will make sure to keep up on, and actually I'm going to go to Nate Eaton over here, because they are back in the courtroom right now, but it's going to be another 15 minutes or so before we get the feed. Lori, okay, so here's what I'm going to share this with you guys so that you can see it as well. This turned into a little bit more than a recap, I guess. So thanks for being here. Hey, do me a favor and hit the like if you would. That helps to get this recap out to people who are looking for it, and I appreciate it. So Nate Eaton says, Lori also filed a motion during lunch. It was for a change of judge. Again, Boreski says it will be referred to the presiding judge, who already denied an earlier motion. He says he'll proceed as normal for today and ask the jury to be brought in. So Lori says she's been unable to get a hold of her investigator. She asks if she can cross-examine Brandon on another day out of order so she can get the information from her investigator. The judge asks if any of the documents she plans on using may have been marked by the state already as exhibits. But there's no answer to that, so I'll be really interested to see what happens. So Trina continues. This is 10 minutes ago. Lori's not in the courtroom. Afternoon thread. Brandon is on the stand. Lori's not in the courtroom. Judge does not look pleased. Boreski says there was some issue during lunch. He granted a motion that she could meet with her advisory council during lunch. Lori was only given 5 minutes to meet with her attorneys during lunch. The judge reminds the officer that Lori is allowed to meet with her team during lunch and accommodations need to be made. The judge says he's waiting for his clerk. Lori's consulting with her advisory attorneys. Lori walked in smiling. Courtroom is full. Brandon Boudreaux is here with his wife, family and friends sitting here. So that's it. I mean, that's it from this afternoon. Because this is from the morning, this one. So that's all I've got for you about what is happening right now in the courtroom. If you will give me one moment, please, if you will indulge me, I'm going to share the link with you for my afternoon stream, if I can find it. Did I come into the wrong studio, you guys? I think I did. I don't know. Maybe this is going to mess everything up. Okay. I am in the correct studio. I see the court feed, but it has not started yet. So I tried to get all of this set up this morning before. I probably should have just left my stream running, and I think that's what I'll do in the future. And sorry guys, thanks for being patient. And I do want to answer some questions as well, if the questions are there in the chat. Okay, sorry, refreshing, and this will be much smoother tomorrow, so I apologize that it's taken me a second. There we go. Okay, found it. Okay, yeah, so Lori did file a motion for a new judge again, but I don't know how that's going to go for her, because the person that hears these motions is Judge Green. She is the presiding magistrate for Maricopa County. She's already heard Lori's motion for a new judge in the past. And so unless Lori has a specific argument that is brand new, that is not something that not an argument that she's made before, this judge might just not hear the motion. This judge might rule on it by just issuing a written ruling, like Judge Boreski has decided to do. So that is interesting to me. So at some point during these proceedings, now we know court is going to start at 9 a.m. tomorrow. The judge is trying to get back as much time as he possibly can so we can get this trial over with. But it's just definitely crazy. I think she's really uncomfortable about confronting Brandon. Brandon sees through her, and I think that's the real reason why she doesn't want to cross-examine him right now, but she is also waiting for documents from her investigator. And I'm going to switch over here to share this with you, because Justin Lum, and thanks for the reminder to check out his feed, because they do sometimes have different reporting. It just goes to show you how different reporters catch different things. But Justin says direct examination of Boudreaux will be completed, and then we'll get a break because Daybell needs some documents via her investigator for cross. So we're going to take a break apparently at some point in this afternoon. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to jump off of this recap over here, because we have recapped what has happened. And I'm going to jump back onto the live stream for this afternoon's coverage. I will be over there commenting as long as court is not in session. Then we'll stream the court proceedings, and then I will have an afternoon recap as well. And that afternoon recap is going to include the details of all of the testimony. So if you're not watching trial, you don't want to listen to Lori, I'm listening to her, so you don't have to. There will be all of the details and the evidence that gets shown, all of the text messages. I will show clips of different things that are important. And I will not have Lori's baby voice. We will just only have closed captioning. So I appreciate you being here so much. Please make sure that you hit the like on the way in and out if you're watching it later. I appreciate you watching it later. And I will see you on another live stream very shortly. Take care, everybody.